generally players, I should say, players in games generally want there to be some sort of quid pro quo that occurs in game for their characters to benefit from whatever action they take. For example, if they are going to go and hunt down a particularly vicious monster that is eating the Duke's cattle or whatever, they want the Duke to come up with some form of compensation for them or some merit that makes the necessity of taking care of those creatures valuable to them. And this gets to be problematic because player expectation doesn't always meet character needs, so to speak. In other words, if you have an economy that's driven by a basic silver economy, where the locals pay their workers in silver, silver is used to exchange for goods and such like, the addition of somebody with a chest full of gold pieces will be problematic because the gold pieces value within a silver-based economy is either priceless or worthless. Either you are breaking the economy by giving coins into the system that draw the silver basis out, or you're putting a coin into the system and downplaying its value, depressing it to meet the local economy, and therefore devaluing the gold piece. So it becomes a matter of whether you are playing a campaign or if you're playing a series of single events that are dissociated. So, just as a quick go-to, realize that the average income in a silver economy means that the average person makes a silver piece. Historically, if a person made a denarius was 1 day's wages, and that denarius was a coin that equated to that, so that the employer could give the person physical representation of the work they had done in coin form. Therefore, they could then use that in a compensatory way when dealing with other tradesmen, trade like for like, in perception of how long it took it to make an item and therefore what its value was compared to what the valuation of the coins were. So when you have those economies, when you have those numeric values, then you have an understanding of them. If you don't have that, you don't have that mechanism, then you have no way of knowing what the coin is doing to the economy. Of course, the next issue that we're going to talk about today, well, let's continue about the economy, because now when you're talking about character compensation, therefore, if you tell them that there's going to be a chest of gold that is being guarded by a troll, then the destruction of the troll should have a compensatory value equal to the number of coins in that box. Otherwise, the players are getting overpaid, so to speak. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing unless they start spending as if they were, unless they, start running through that treasure in the local economy, which again will crush local businesses because they will either have to provide change, which will take out of their silver supply for their other business uses, or you're going to fill them with an economy they can't easily move through the economy, because who can take a gold piece generally? And if you're buying lots of items, then that's you mess with their livelihood when you show up with a box of gold. So the concept of receiving a treasury of gold would necessarily mean that that player, that character, is now set for life. He won't have to do anything except once in a while break a gold piece for local change to use to make his purchases. If your economy is based on gold pieces, then you have the opposite problem, that telling somebody that the treasure is going to be paid by 30 pieces of silver or 90 pieces of silver or whatever, you undermine that player's economy, and they will see that as a less valuable job. And either one of two things will happen. Either they will pile up lots and lots of silver pieces, or again, they will mess with the economy by glutting it with an overmuch of silver pieces into an economy that's driven normally by gold. It doesn't really have a need for those extra coins. So, in a meta environment that is not campaign based, this doesn't mean anything. And gold pieces can count like they do in a video game as a scoring mechanism. You can just keep it like a little counter and watch it go up and down. But that isn't as plausible or feasible or even wanted in a standard campaign based roleplay game. Because in the roleplay game, you want to be able to transact, and having the coins to do the transaction that match the type of business that's being done is what you really want. I've had campaigns where players would literally leave behind silver pieces and gold and copper pieces in a treasury because they didn't want to carry them around, thereby now leaving for subject creatures or whatever to find those coins and therefore expand the number of people that are depleting the economy rather than or inflating the economy. Either which way, you're messing with the livelihood of the locals. So you have to kind of take a concept of that. Additionally, if you provide compensation to the players in terms of real goods, this becomes problematic only because they start to stockpile them. For example, for a while there was a king who was offering a horse for a mission, and the players were actually churning the horses by picking them up, going on the adventure, and then later coming back and saying, "Oh, my horse died," when they'd really just sold it. Well, that process is changing the economy, shifting the values, and depleting your primary payer to the point where they shouldn't theoretically be able to keep providing. So just realize that the very concept of character compensation needs to be something you take care of, because in 3 of my last 9 groups, I have had players who just have hoarded everything that they've collected. And at the end of the game, after we had reached their 20th level and they were ready to retire, one player over the others collected a lot more because he had saved all of these routine items and then wanted to flood the market by selling all of them at once at an auction, so to speak. And this, of course, messes with the local economy, the local suppliers, local transactors and sales and merchants of those goods. It's just, I guess what I'm trying to get to is that character compensation is a concern for a game master, and that if he's looking at building a long-lasting story that makes sense, then the characters need to be compensated appropriately for the mission and not overpaid, so to speak.